Good evening, everyone, and welcome into Season 2, Episode 14 of the Forge Podcast, brought to you by Shotgun Sports Network Alabama of the Shotgun Sports Network. My name is Ryan Messer, and we've got a lot to get into after we took a bit of a sabbatical. We had some issues come up that were beyond our control, along with we were wanting to also kind of give the platform back to the YouTube platform back to the CFL guys as they're getting their seasons rolled out. So, before we get too far, we've got the Barons who went to Knoxville this past week to talk about. We also got the great opportunity to talk to Barons radio broadcaster Doug Greenwald. The Stallions rounded up their regular season on Sunday with the trip up I-22 up there to Memphis. And then the Legion had their match on Saturday up over in Indy. But before we get too far, I want to thank you guys for your support on Facebook and YouTube and X, all the engagement and stuff there. And I want to thank you guys for listening, whether it's on Spotify, Audible, Apple Podcast, iHeart, or wherever you're hearing this. We also have to say thank you to Blue Spring Living Water because, guys, it is getting hot. I don't know if you've noticed. The highs are in the 80s and 90s now, so make sure you guys are staying hydrated with the naturally minerally enriched water brought to you by Blue Spring. It's bottled right at the source, so there's no risk of contamination, and you can find it right at your local grocer, or you can get it delivered right to your home or office. Just go to Blue Spring Living Water for more information. And with that, this is Season 2, Episode 14 of the Forge Podcast. We're going to start things off with the Birmingham Stallions, who wound up rounding out their regular season at Memphis this past Sunday. The Showboats elected to receive the opening kickoff, which is, I think they were the only team to do it all season long. But the Memphis Showboats showed glimpses of good offense on that opening drive. They moved the ball inside the Birmingham 10-yard line, but the defense was able to keep them out of the end zone, forcing the chip shot field goal. Then with Jamar Smith back under center for the Stallions, they were able to get to about midfield on the ground, primarily on the back of Ricky Person. And then he wound up hitting Jace for a 37-yard pass for right to the 2-yard line. Then Ricky was able to power it in for the touchdown. Unable to convert on the 2-point try, the Stallions wound up kicking back off to the Showboats, who wound up moving the ball into Stallions territory, but then Tay Crowder wound up intercepting Wynn for a pick six. So Trey, and then Roundtree was actually able to power in the conversion for the 1-point try. Then after that, once the Showboats were able to move the ball yet again, but they did some kind of crazy formation on 4th and 1, It was an all heavy package for the line. And then they had no quarterback. It was a direct snap to the tight end, and they called it the grenade. So it worked. But then they did it again at the 10, and they wound up finding the end zone on the following play. Um, the defense did keep them from converting the 1 point attempt. The Stallions did take that last drive personally, but because Jamar and the offense was wound up putting on a clinic, moving the ball with perfect precision and a combination of run and pass plays there before Jamar wound up hitting Amari for the touchdown pass for first and goal from the 10. Um, Jamar wound up rushing it in to convert the 1 point attempt. And then the Showboats got a single first down on the following possession before going quickly 3-and-out in their own zone, forcing a punt. The Stallions were much more conservative on this following drive, only attempting a couple short passes, getting stalled around the Memphis 31 before Mevis before Mevis was able to hit a 49-yard field goal with only 41 seconds left to play in the half. Unable to get anything going, they wound up heading into the locker room for halftime there. But Birmingham wound up getting the second half kickoff, and Coach Holtz elected to let Peasley come in and lead the second half, which he mentioned post-game was kind of a planned thing because he hadn't really had a chance to see what Andrew Peasley has, so he needed to see him get some reps there. But he did not. He did well, not as smooth as Jamar in the pocket, but he was still getting the job done. He got the ball down to the 2 before Ricky wound up punching it in for a touchdown. The handoff to Roundtree for a 1 point conversion was unsuccessful, though. This was followed by another quick 3-and-out by the Showboats, and the Stallions were able to move the ball across midfield before stalling out at the Memphis 36, allowing Mevis to hit another 54-yard field goal that would be his season long. On the ensuing drive, the Showboats were moving and got it to Birmingham territory before Tay Crowder wound up intercepting it again for yet another pick six. Peasley was able to hand it off to Davion for the 1 point conversion. The following Showboats possession was another quick 3-and-out, and on the punt, Ricky was able to get a paw on it, blocking it, setting the Stallions up at the Memphis 40. With great field position, they were able to get the ball down the field a little bit more, and Tree was able to get it in for another touchdown. Peasley was able to hit Marlin for the 1 point conversion, and then they wound up the defense was able to stop the Showboats yet again, and the Stallions wound up running out the clock to end the regular season with an amazing performance there in Memphis. So what we learned here was Jamar is the guy right now. He's on fire. We've all heard the facts that he was in Vestavia, working as a manager over the Dunkin' Donuts over there. He was working out at the Cute Quarterback Academy out on 280. The guy's been busy. I mean, we've heard a lot of good things about that Quarterback Academy out there in over at 280. So it's great to see that he was out there hustling. Our defense is borderline the best in the league, but our offense is firing on all cylinders right now. It's insane what we're seeing right now. We did find out that Alex Magoo is back on IR. So our three quarterbacks right now are probably going to be Jamar, Matt, and Andrew. So I can't see not playing Jamar next week. Starting Jamar. But Matt could be QB2 or QB1 there. So Peasley is likely going to be 3. I like seeing Matt and Jamar together. So it's really cool to see that. Best of both worlds there. So, but 11, there were 11 players targeted for receptions this game, and 70 of those had over 20 yards, which is insane for a single game. Then they went 9 for 12 on third down, which was a struggle the past few weeks. And then they were perfect in the red zone and did not punt once. Speaking of, that was a record, and speaking of records, that was the second highest points scored. It was the number one highest margin of victory with 37 points, and then the most pick sixes in a single game by a single player. So they're heading back home to take on the Michigan Panthers this coming up Sunday, and we will be there for the USFL Conference Championship. So make sure you guys get out there if you can. So I know it's supposed to be a little bit. It would not be a Stallions game if there was not a chance of rain. There's a chance of thunderstorms. So again, it would not be a Stallions game if there was not a chance for rain. So make sure you guys get out there, and regardless of the weather, of course, stay safe. But there's always place to go under for shelter there. Switching things over to the Birmingham Barons, had a few transactions this past week. On Tuesday, we received left-handed pitcher Tommy Vale from High A Kannapolis, as well as Peyton Paulette going to AAA Charlotte. Then on Wednesday, we saw that Adam Hackenberg was moved up to AAA Charlotte as well. And then we wound up receiving catcher Calvin Harris. On Friday, we wound up activating catcher Colby Smelly, and Michael Turner was actually moved to the 7-day injured list. Right-handed pitcher Gerald Rosado was moved to the development list. And then Hagen Smith was also added to the 7-day injured list. And the guys took a trip up to Knoxville this past week to take on the Smokies in their new stadium there in downtown Knoxville. Tuesday was postponed due to weather. Of course, summer, starting to get those showers coming through. But Wednesday we had game 1. The Smokies got things going off of a score in the first. They scored again in the 6th, and then winning as the Barons couldn't get anything going in that game. Totals for that game were the Smokies with the 2 runs off of 4 hits. There were 2 errors, and they stranded 3. Barons had no runs off of only 2 hits. There were no errors, and they stranded 8. Wednesday, the second game there on Wednesday was postponed for weather again. On Thursday, the game's only run was actually off of Knoxville's only hit. There in the 2nd inning, off of a solo shot home run. The totals for this game were the Smokies with the 1 run off of 1 hit. Insane to get beat off of 1 hit. There were no errors, and they stranded 0. The Barons had the no runs off of 6 hits. There were no errors, but they stranded 8. Struggling to get those runs in. Or getting the hits, not getting the runs in, guys. That's how this team is played. It's a lot of small ball, as we will hear a little bit later. Thursday, game 2. In the bottom of the third, with bases loaded, Ryan Galaney wound up singling to bring in Matthews and Gusenberg, and that would be the game's only scoring, as the totals for this one were the Smokies with 0 runs off of only 3 hits. There were 2 errors, and they stranded 6. Barons had the 2 runs off of 4 hits. There was one error, and they stranded 7. Then we saw on Friday where Ryan Galaney got things going in the third with a grounder to left to bring in Riku Nishida. Connor wound up tripling to bring in the fourth to bring in Gonzo. And then Jacob Burke immediately hit a sac fly to bring him in. The Smokies wound up tying things up with 2 in the fifth and 1 in the sixth before Gonzo wound up hitting a double to bring in Galaney in the seventh. And then in the eighth, Riku wound up doubling to bring in Burke. And then they tied things up with a 2-run homer in the eighth. But then Calvin Harris was able to bring in DJ and Mario in the top of the ninth to regain the lead. But they wound up scoring 3 in the bottom of the ninth inning to walk it off. The totals for this game were Smokies with the 8 runs off of 11 hits. There was 1 error, and they stranded 8. Barons had the 7 runs off of 13 hits. There was 1 error, and they stranded 12. On Saturday for the first game of the doubleheader, these doubleheader game, a game in a week with a bunch of doubleheaders, I hate it, because it's hard to get anything really going to get with the team. But the Smokies scored in the second and the fourth, but the Barons couldn't get a thing going. So the totals for this game were the Smokies with the 2 runs off of 7 hits. There were no errors, and they stranded 4. The Barons had the no runs off of 5 hits. There was an error, and they stranded 7. Saturday game 2, the Smokies started out again with a run in the bottom of the first. Burke answered back with bringing in Gonzo off of a ground out in the second. Then they went to extras where Bergoya was actually able to bring in Riku and win it for the Barons there. The totals for this game were the Smokies with the 1 run off of 5 hits. There were no errors, and they stranded 10. The Barons had the 2 runs off of 6 hits. There were no errors, and they stranded 6. Then on Sunday, Galaney wound up reaching on a throwing error, bringing in Riku. And then Varys wound up hitting a 3-run homer to make it 4-0 early. Then the Smokies wound up scoring in the first. Scoring 1 in the first and 3 in the seventh to tie it up. Then we saw Galaney get up in the ninth to hit a grand slam for the game winner there. So just great to see that from Ryan Galaney there. Totals for this game were Smokies with the 4 runs off of 6 hits. There was an error, and they stranded 5. Barons had the 8 runs off of 11 hits. There were no errors, and they stranded 6. They are back home this coming up week as they take on the Trash Pandas of Rocket City. And then today they actually had the Rickwood Classic game. So the standings right now with Birmingham in first place. Chattanooga is 2.5 games behind. Knoxville is in third with 4 games behind, and Rocket City is sitting at fourth in the Southern League North at 9.5 games behind. We also had the opportunity to talk to the new radio broadcaster of the Birmingham Barons, Doug Greenwald. And we're going to welcome him in right now. All right, welcome in, Doug. Thank you for this opportunity to talk. Uh, first things first, as the new voice of the Birmingham Barons, most people may not know much about you outside of the broadcast. So tell us a little bit more about where you come from.
Well, I grew up in San Francisco, a baseball background. My father was the radio voice of the San Francisco Giants for 16 seasons, also had a couple of years with the Yankees, a few years moonlighting on the TV side with the Oakland A's. So overall, he did roughly 20 years of Major League Baseball. So I've grown up around that environment. But San Francisco has always been what I have considered my home for the most part.
Awesome. So West Coast coming over to the East here. So where did your love of the sport of baseball blossom?
Well, there's no doubt. I mean, through my dad. When he started broadcasting with the Giants in 1979, I was about 4 years old, and maybe as years go on from maybe ages 4 to whatever 6, 7 years old, you start to figure out what dad does for a living, and that was going to a baseball game every day, and then maybe you figure out a few years after that or during that time maybe that oh yeah, that's what he does for a job. It's not a hobby. But my background. I mean, I mentioned what my dad did. I mean, my own background, and I didn't fail to mention it, but or forget to mention it. But this is well, let's see here, 1990. What are we? 2025. So it's my 30th year of my own experience, and the majority of my experience comes from Fresno, where I did 20 seasons of broadcasting there with the Grizzlies, which prior to Major League Baseball moving Fresno from AAA to Low A, 17 of those years was at AAA, and the majority of those years were the Giants AAA, which had names like Buster Posey and Brandon Bell and Brandon Crawford and Tim Lincecum and Matt Cain and Madison Bumgarner, and such a large group of those guys that made up really the three World Series titles they had. So I mean that's really been my I guess you could say 20 out of the 30 years, 66% of my career was spent in Fresno. But I've been really all over. I was in Shreveport for a couple of years, and the Giants had their Double A team. Uh, I've been in Modesto when they were the A's once had their Single A club. Been around a little bit, and then last year I was in the still calling professional baseball, but in the MLB partner leagues, which the same thing as saying independent league. It's pro baseball. Guys are paid. Guys are still around veteran coaching and veteran managing. Just didn't have an affiliate attached to it. But this obviously is my first year in Birmingham.
Absolutely. So you kind of answered my next question about where all you came from. So, or you did calling games throughout your career. But what has been the major highlight of your career so far?
Well, that's I think it's an easy one. I mean, having the beyond good fortune to be asked by the San Francisco Giants to call regular season games for them. Uh, I did 12 years of spring training games for them on sfgiants.com, and that led to some opportunities with regular season games. And I had, I'd say, roughly 10, maybe 10 of those opportunities regular season. So I think any chance that one has an opportunity to call a regular season game in the major leagues, that would be the highlight because that's for what we all strive.
Right, absolutely. But prior that's a major accomplishment. I would that top that as well. Prior to calling games here in Birmingham for the Barons, had you ever been to the city before?
Aaron had on just for this interview, by the way,
Nice.
Ryan. Um, yes, I've been several times to Birmingham. I used to broadcast basketball at Centenary College in Shreveport when it was a Division One school. It's hard to believe it. Almost 15 years now as a Division Three program. But when I was D1, Centenary, and I don't like using the word "we," but I will in this context because we're not in the middle of a game. We played at BSC, so Birmingham Southern, which
Hmm.
I know no longer exists. Period.
Right.
But we played there. So I've done a basketball game at Bill Battle Coliseum, and we've also played at UAB on the men's side. That was during one of the early years of Mike Anderson was coaching there. So I'd been through Birmingham on and off over the years. I know we'll get into talking about Kurt Bloom, but sometimes just on my travels have taken me through Alabama. Since Birmingham sits right in the middle of things, I'll often drive through there and catch up with Kurt. And I also had been to one Rickwood Classic in 2014. Excuse me. I had a day off from Fresno. Um, and I've been to prior to my assignment this year, I'd been to one game at Region. So I've been through Birmingham, I'd say a handful of times.
Awesome. Um,
Sorry about that.
so, what are your thoughts about the city so far since you've been here for a couple months now? So, how's it been for you?
Well, I think it's a very pretty city. I mean, when you throw in the outlying area like Mountain Brook, like Homewood, Vestavia Hills, Hoover. I love the drive when you just get out of the city, how pretty it is when you head up toward the hills a little bit and you see the mountains from the distance. I think it's very pretty. The downtown area still kind of combines the old southern downtown to a vibrant downtown. And everybody told me when I came here, and granted I'm not living literally in the city, but when people came here, they said, "Hey, you'll love the UAB area because it's a growing area with a lot of apartments, a lot of retail going up. Obviously, the ballpark. When I know the ballpark has been there over 10 years, but there's been a lot of development that's I think helped in that area. So I think it's been a fun area. People are very friendly, and I think it's just very pretty. It combines as I say, kind of the blue collar South, the iron industry, with the surrounding area of the mountains. So it's really come as advertised.
Awesome. That's great to hear. We hear that you knew you mentioned Kurt Bloom, CB earlier, prior to getting the job. So tell us how that relationship came to be.
I always feel it's important to get to know a lot of other broadcasters. We all do the same thing. I think our goals are all the same, trying to reach the highest levels, regardless of the sport or the network. And Kurt, I've always had, even prior to meeting him, a prospect and knew of Kurt. And I think Kurt really got on the map because of Michael Jordan, who is always going to be I think the hallmark player in Barron's history. But Kurt is always going to be the hallmark broadcaster in Barron's history. 33 years, Barron's Hall of Fame, Southern League Hall of Fame, well deserved, no doubt, major league quality person and major league quality broadcaster. So I knew of Kurt for a while, and then he and I never didn't shake hands until 2005. I was at a Southern League playoff game in Jacksonville, and obviously the Suns, as they were known then, were playing the Barons, and got to meet Kurt. And I'm guessing Kurt knew who I was, but regardless, Kurt's like, "Hey, if you want to, come in and just hang out for a couple innings during the game, more than welcome." And you know, uh, uh, strung up a friendship then, and that's one we've always maintained. And I go back to my original statement, always trying to meet the broadcasters. You never know when they're in a position to help you. And Kurt knew I was looking for a job all winter, for a baseball job. And when he left the Barons, he called me, recommended me to the GM president, Jonathan Nelson. And within a couple of weeks, I was hired. So, I mean, obviously, I thank Jonathan, no doubt about it, for hiring me. But Kurt really got the ball rolling with all of this.
Awesome. So, you've been calling games for a few months now. How are you enjoying the game days at Region Field?
Well, it's been, I think no different than most game days that I've had other places. You get to the ballpark usually, I don't know, maybe a half hour before batting practice starts. So would be a typical 7 o'clock start. I'm maybe there around 3:30. Batting practice starts at 4. I don't think any of that has changed regardless. But the last homestand, I thought the crowds were really into it. We drew well. Teams been playing well, of course, which helps. And uh, I think it's just it's one of those where again you people can get off work downtown and come on over to the ballpark. So I think it's a fun game day staff. It's been fun to meet the or game day environment. It's been fun to meet a lot of the staff members because they might not be new to Regents Field, but they know I'm new, and many have come up to say hello and to introduce themselves. So it's a fun atmosphere. I always like walking around the ballpark. Uh, right around the time the games open, the gates open to say hello to the game day workers. So it's a fun. Again, I really enjoyed it. It's a fun environment.
Absolutely. Um, Great to hear. But so far they're doing, like you said, they're doing really good right now. Um, what are you, they're number one in the Southern League North, really close to clinching that playoff berth. But what have you been seeing up in the booth that you like to see from the Barons so far this season?
I think fundamental baseball. I mean, it's a team that doesn't have a lot of power. They don't really rely on the long ball, so they have to. They got speed with William Burgoyne. They got speed with uh, Nishida. Um, they have like a lot of guys that can hit and run. So they're not gonna win a lot of games 11-3, but they've been able to win a lot of games 4-1, 3-2. And because of that, some of their relievers deservedly have gone up to AAA now. They've earned that right. They don't want to. Yeah, understandably, they're not here to hang around Birmingham. They're there to progress. And when you win, you're going to progress, and that's the job of what the White Sox have done. Um, and you've seen that last homestand against Chattanooga. There were a lot of low-scoring games, but the Barons won the majority of them.
Hmm. And you mentioned the speed of Riku Nishida. That dude is insanely fast. I don't think I've ever seen anybody. Um, I mean, he makes up for his size and his speed. So, um, I, you have anything to add to him, how well he's been doing?
Well, I mean, I think he's a fun player to watch. He's he's not Otani. I mean, maybe the speed could equal Otani. I mean, he's not a power guy, but he is a table setter. He's kind of a pest that other teams just try to. You got to keep him off the bases. Um, I know he told me he loves playing the outfield, loves playing right field more so than left field. That was his college position. But I think he's just a lot of fun and bring a real bundle of energy to watch play.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Any last words you got to say to the all the Barons fans out there?
Absolutely. Not only do we want to see you at every game at Regents Field, we want to see you at Rickwood Field coming up June 4th, 12:30 first pitch. We're going to have a lot of special guests. Always a special day because that's the one day that really the minor league season shines on Birmingham. That's a special day where really the Barons are, I think, the only minor league team that takes the game off campus, so to speak. So, the oldest ballpark that's in use that still houses at least one professional baseball game every year. We saw how popular it was last year for the major league game. Hopefully, there'll be more major league games there. It's not, it won't be this year, but next year maybe they'll return that game to Rickwood. But we want to see all of you for the Rickwood Classic. So 12:30, Wednesday, June 4th, and again, want to thank all of our great listeners and great fans, and we seem to be the Bears seem to be in good position for a first half title. So come on out, and hopefully we'll clinch another chance to go to the playoffs, and hopefully a chance to repeat as Southern League champs. But again, Wednesday, June 4th, Rickwood Field, 12:30 first pitch, and festivities beforehand. So see you there,
Awesome. Thank you, Doug. You have a great one.
Ryan. Thank you for having me.
It was great to talk to him and just some of the topics he had to talk about, just his path throughout the entire his career. So so amazing. But with that, just great to have him on here in Birmingham, taking the reins from CB there. But with that, we're gonna go ahead and switch things over to the Birmingham Legion FC, who took a trip over to Oklahoma to take on FC Tulsa for the next match of the Jägermeister Cup. Things got went back and forth through a majority of the first half there. And in the 15th minute, Tulsa wound up tackling Enzo pretty much, drawing the game's first yellow card. They went to the locker room at halftime tied at nothing. Then they came out of the half. Both teams showed a little bit more urgency there. And Tulsa was issued yet another yellow card in the 51st minute. After a couple penalties in the Tulsa defensive zone for Tulsa, Ronaldo wound up finding the back of the net for a Legion goal. Then in the 60th minute, Preston Tabor Itaka was able to was shown a yellow card there. And then in the 62nd minute, Tulsa wound up leveling the score with a goal of their own. Then Sebastian Tregarthen was able to give the Legion FC the lead with a goal in the 68th minute, which would be the game winner, as the Legion was able to hold off Tulsa for the remainder of the match to win it 2-1. Tonight they are back home at Protective Stadium, taking on Indy 11. So great to see them win another game. But right now, the UFL postseason is upon us. The Barons are close to grabbing their first half victory and clinching the playoffs for 2 years in a row. And the Legion FC seems to be playing much better under their new leadership. And but that's about all we have for this week. We will see you guys next week as we cover all things pro sports here in the Magic City. You hope you guys have a wonderful night, and good night.